This is day 2 of the Houdini Box. Text at 12, genre study historical fiction. Alright. When we last saw Victor, he had just returned home from a weekend with Aunt Harriet. Who remembers why Victor was so worked up all weekend? Let's see if he gets that letter from Houdini. Back at home, Victor locked himself in the closet under the staircase, the cupboard in the kitchen, and his grandmother's trunk 9 more times. How he hoped Houdini would write him quickly. Victor thought and dreamt about the magician's letter. When you are a boy expecting the secrets of the world to arrive in the mail, it is almost impossible to be patient. If only Victor were already a magician. A magician could make the letter appear out of thin air, but Victor was just a boy. Impatiently or not, he had to wait, and so he did until one day when he was locked up tight inside in his old suitcase, he finally heard his mother say, "Victor, there's a letter here for you." She unlocked the suitcase and handed him the letter. The handwriting was thick and round and perfect. "1,000 secrets await you. Come to my house." Then Houdini gave the letter and date for the meeting, but it seemed so far away. Victor knew he couldn't wait, so he went to the magician's house that evening. His hands were shaking as he knocked on the door. With a heavy sigh opened, and there before him was Harry's Houdini wife. Victor was suddenly too nervous to speak. He stood silently staring at the sad woman in the light of the doorway. She handed him some candy and softly asked, "What are you supposed to be?" Victor didn't understand what she meant until he saw a ghost, a cowboy, and 2 little goblins running down the street. In all of his excitement, he had forgotten that tonight was Halloween. And now he knew what he was supposed to be. "I'm a magician," he said, and handed Mrs. Houdini the letter. Mrs. Houdini read it and began to cry. She asked him to please wait inside and vanished up the staircase into the magician's library, a dark place alive with books and dust and magical things. He held his breath, waiting for Houdini to greet him with outstretched arms, and led him back into the mysterious room. When someone finally appeared in the hallway, though it was only Mrs. Houdini again, alone, she came to Victor and handed him a small locked box. Then she opened the front door, and as she showed him out, he heard her whisper, "Houdini died today." The magician's wife closed the door and left Victor alone with the box. "Bye," he said to the door, and went out into the streets toward home. That night, while he was trying to open the lock on the box with pins and pens, all the small keys from the suitcase and clocks around the house, Victor found the owner's initials engraved at the bottom, E.W. This wasn't Houdini's box at all. The owner was some E.W. There could be no secrets in here. Imagine as you read this how it would feel if you had one dream, one hope, one mysterious wish, and then saw it disappear into thin air. That's how Victor felt, and that's why he did what he did next. He took the box that belonged to E.W. and buried it forever at the bottom of his closet. As he closed the door, he made this promise, "Houdini is gone. I will never think about him again, or try to do any of his tricks, cross my heart, and hope to die." So how do you feel about Victor's reaction and his feelings of betrayal? Do you agree he should have hidden the box away? So Victor grew up and got married. He and his wife had a child, and they named him Harry in honor of Aunt Harriet, who had passed away one October long ago. He was not named in honor of a certain magician, because Victor said he never, not even once, thought about Houdini. One chilly day, several years later, Victor and Harry were playing ball in a large field near a graveyard behind their house. Victor was pitching and Harry was swinging his bat, but he could never quite hit the ball. It was nearly dark and there was time for just one more try. Victor gave Harry a few last-minute batting tips, and then, with all the gentle power that he had, threw the day's final pitch to his son. Harry closed his eyes, and at exactly the right moment he swung his bat. He heard a loud crash, opened his eyes, and was amazed to see the ball fly through the sky and land somewhere in the middle of the graveyard. Victor congratulated his son, and together they climbed over the iron fence to look for the winning baseball. At last they found it lying in the corner of a dark monument. Whether it had landed there by chance or by some strange, powerful magic, no one will ever know. But the ball that Victor's son had hit so perfectly had come to rest right on the grave of Houdini. Victor read the monument. Two smaller words appeared directly below. Houdini, and Victor said them over and over again because they seemed so familiar. It wasn't until he traced the first letter with his fingers that he understood what he was reading. This was Houdini's name, real name. Before he became Houdini, the magician had been a boy named Heinrich Wyss. E.W. Victor's head spun and he laughed out loud. Carrying his son, he ran out of the graveyard, through the baseball field, and into his house. So what did Victor discover at Houdini's monument? He was out of breath and crazy with excitement, but he couldn't tell his wife or son what was going on. He waited until they were fast asleep, and then he snuck upstairs into the attic. Victor found the forgotten box in a moonlit corner under a steady leak in the roof. He carefully picked it up and dried it off. His hand brushed across the lock and it suddenly crumbled. The water had rusted through the tiny thing completely. How easy it would have been to open the box now. All that night, while his wife and son slept downstairs in the attic, shadows vanished in the pale blue fall of moonlight. Victor locked himself inside his grandmother's trunk and escaped in under 20 seconds. So what do you think Victor found in the box? An interesting note. The greatest magician of all time really was named Heinrich Wyss, but in reading the autobiography of Robert Houdini, a hunting French magician, Heinrich found a hero in a new name. He added an I to the end of Houdini, Houdin, thinking the name would then mean like that person. And the 17-year-old boy became Houdini. Born on March 24, 1874, in Budapest, Hungary, Heinrich was the first son of a poor rabbi. The family came to the United States soon after Heinrich's birth, eventually settling in New York City. He was introduced to magic by a friend and then practiced small conjuring tricks with cards and coins. But the secrets of rope escapes fascinated Heinrich the most. With his new name, Houdini joined his brother in a small magic act until 1894, when he married Beatrice Reiner, a young showgirl. Beatrice became his assistant, and they toured Europe in a show filled with magnificent escapes and mysteries. Audience screamed and fainted and cheered the Houdinis returned to America triumphant. When not performing, the magician wrote books, starred in fantastic movies, and visited famous magicians' graves. He was obsessed with death, and he and his wife promised that the first to die would try to contact the other. Houdini really did die on Halloween, but it happened in Detroit while on tour, not in New York, as in my story. I sent Houdini and his wife home so Victor could find them there that day. Houdini was hospitalized on October 26, 1926, 3 days and 4 performances after being punched in the stomach by a college student wishing to test Houdini's incredible strength. As he lay dying, Houdini whispered Roosevelt believed to his wife. After his death, this was the code she was to wait for. She never heard the words. As for the Houdini box, I made it up, or at least I thought I did. I recently found a newspaper article dated 1974 with the headline, Magician's Box Still Being Sought. It went on to say, Houdini, who was born in 1874, reportedly said that on the 100th anniversary of the event, a box containing his cherished secrets would be made public. The article also said that the box had not yet been found.